Hey everyone, it's your man Dr. L. Thank you so much for checking out the episode here of Dr. L's Breakdown. We're going to jump right into it here because this, I think, is going to be a pretty long, pretty substantial interview, probably about 23 minutes or so. And by the time I break it up and do my thoughts about it, it'll be 35 minutes or so. All right, so let's get into it here. Here is the sheriff, I guess, sheriff and a police chief of Philadelphia, the county and in the city. I'm gonna give my thoughts, my opinions. If you have not watched part one of this, in which I went over qualified immunity, make sure you go over there and watch that.
Hi, hero for the weather chance, please. Sheriff Bilal, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay now.
Okay, perfect. We got a little bit of a delay, but it's much better. I was just saying before you dropped that you have been my hero this week. It's something to look forward to when you see a black queen telling people what time it is, not backing down at all. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the culture.
Thank you.
So I want to get into some of what you said on
That delay is killing us.
the video. You talked about law enforcement not wearing masks. Can you talk about why being visible is such an important part of the work you do every single day?
Being visible, and thank you for having me, being visible, and so that people would know who you are. So if you are doing the right thing, showing who you are, your face, having your badge on, having your ID on, so they can determine whether you are real or fake. Because people walking around with masks don't necessarily be doing the right thing in our communities. And then at this point, if you are doing the right thing, you can show who you are. If you're standing on principle, show who you are. What's the mask for? You're like the mass agent coming into people's communities. You're confusing them, you're scaring them, and you're causing conflict. All of this was supposed to be about helping. None of this is helping. None of this. See, when you're talking about immigration, law enforcement professionals have worked together for decades. Immigration, when you're doing it right, get a warrant signed by a judge and go get people. But they don't do what we've been seeing for the past 11 months. And the reason why I'm speaking out, because the last 11 months, I'm seeing people dragged down the street by their hair, pulling on doors on vehicles, shooting in vehicles that are moving. This is what you don't do. And law enforcement professionals don't stand in front of moving cars. You are trying to get yourself injured. You can injure anybody else. Shooting into a moving car, that builder could have went through that window, crossed the street, hit the house, and somebody in there could be injured. Somebody could be walking across the street, could be injured. And just like property being damaged, because that vehicle kept straight going and ran into other vehicles. So this is the reason why, as law enforcement professionals, we do not do this. Wearing masks. If you're about the business, then be about it.
You know, so on this point, and this I think is so important because right now, everything that we learned in like Know Your Rights courses or online videos, those rights don't seem to be working, right? People aren't getting a chance to make a phone call once detained. They can't talk to their lawyer. They're not being allowed to produce documents. They're being held in places that are unknown to their families. There are all of these things that are blatant violations of our constitutional rights. And I mentioned at the start of the show, this is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, something that's near and dear to the city of Philadelphia, right? This is an opportunity for America to redefine itself as it says it is on paper. As Dr. King said, be true to who you say you are on paper.
That's the problem, Angela. They're trying to redefine themselves. That's the issue. That's what we have to fight against. You're trying to take it from this idea of thoughts and principles, and these are the founding fathers, and this is what we all should stand for, and this city on the hill, and all this other type of flowery language. They want to take it. There are people out there who want to take it way back, and this is their attempt at one of the attempts in a long line of ideas in which they want to strip down the amount of people and the types of people who are here, and this has to be fought against. And unfortunately, Miss Renee Good lost her life because she saw through all that and said, "I want to stand up for the people." And I can, for all people. Herself, I guess, was member of the rainbow community. And so she wants to stand up against it, because against all of that. And you have to understand that if one time they did to black folks, and then they did it to Asian folks, and then more Latinos came here and they did it to them or want to do it to them, eventually these monsters are going to come home to you and to your community. So that's the point.
So can you talk just a moment, Sheriff, about why they shouldn't do some of these things? You talked about not shooting into a moving vehicle. What is the law enforcement professional standard for that? If a car's moving, why do you not shoot into a moving vehicle?
Because anything can happen when you are shooting into a moving vehicle. One, you're shooting recklessly when you do that, because that bullet can go through that car to the other side. It could be a house there, go through the window and hit somebody, an innocent bystander who has nothing to do with it, can get hurt, can get killed, can get injured. And the vehicle, if you hit the person in the vehicle, it keeps going. And then if anybody's crossing the street, a child, an elderly person, anyone will be injured, severely injured or killed. And then
I don't know if she's going to come to this, but again, I would echo those sentiments. Also, we already have Tennessee versus Gardner, established in 1985, I believe, indicating that simply trying to flee away from the police is not a need to execute them. So there's a number of different reasons why we cannot shoot at fleeing felons or those who are fleeing or trying to get away or shoot into moving vehicles. She's listed some. There's so many others, right? It is a law enforcement staple practice, well established, that police officers, unless there is exigent, serious circumstances that yourself or another person is going to be killed, you cannot shoot into that vehicle. And as I've laid out already, that had the officer not stepped in front of the vehicle that's in the roadway, we wouldn't be in this situation.
as the vehicle keeps going, it goes into other properties. And now you're damaging other people's properties who had nothing to do with it. That's why. Yeah. Those reasons. And on top of this, this is the biggest one. You don't stand in front of a vehicle and you don't shoot in one, because if your partner is on the other side, who do you think you're going to injure? That's why.
Yeah. So when you reference these types of clear standards to you, even in the press conference and right now, you're like, this is common sense. At what point in your training do you learn this? Are you concerned that ICE agents haven't even gotten this very basic training, these very basic law enforcement protocols?
Basically,
I don't know what her answer is going to be, but I'm going to say yes. I would be concerned about that, because if they have, as reports have come down, that they've taken the training down from 4 to 5 months down to 47 days without the proper screenings of background checks, psychological examinations, lie detector tests, etc., that routine law enforcement officers go through before they are allowed to go out into the street and interact with the public. If all of that has been stripped down, then this is what we've gotten, and we're going to continue to get. And what's going to happen when they start going, if they truly are going to go door to door? I seriously doubt that they're going to do that, but this is the talk. Whether that means business to business, what does that mean? We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, but I'm not very optimistic about what's going on here.
Because they're the ones that are out here now, and I have to put the distinction: immigration agents versus ICE. Because the ones that you see out there now got 47 days of training. 47.
Wow.
The normal training is 5 to 6 months. And so, what are you dealing with? People who have little bit of training, just not enough to learn de-escalation, know common sense, know what they should and should not do. So I don't know what they're doing. Are they just giving them a gun and say, go out there? That puts not only them in danger, but it also puts our communities in danger. So now, yes, 47 days is not enough for a trained officer.
Yes, that makes sense to me. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. We have a video from Mayor Frey, who is the mayor of Minneapolis, and he's asked about whether or not they would arrest ICE agents who were acting unlawfully, the very thing that you said you plan to do when they do that in Philadelphia, in partnership, of course, with the city attorney, Larry Krasner. So let's roll this clip, and I want to hear your reaction on the other side.
That you're getting to, which I have not wholly answered yet, is like you're basically asking, can our cops arrest them?
Yeah.
From a legal perspective, yes. From a practical perspective, to state the reality, yeah, it does get kind of hard when they drastically outnumber us and they have bigger guns than we do. It does. And here's the thing. We don't want to create.
He's saying that, but I have not seen any statutory authority allowing that, saying that they can arrest them. I just haven't seen it. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm sure that they've talked to people, done, a great amount of research. I put this on the screen for last show. what happens if federal agents and local law stop getting along. In that particular article, I don't recall reading that police officers can just arrest ICE agents. That would be an absolute craziness. And again, if you're going to arrest them, it's got to be procedures. For example, let's just say that this whole situation that happened with Miss Good happens again. And now the police department says, okay, well, listen, we're going to take this guy into custody. First of all, you wouldn't do that with your own police officer on the street, right? You'd allow the feds to come in or the state to come in and do a thorough investigation. And if the prosecutor signs off on it and says there's enough probable cause to make the arrest, then they'll do it through warrants, etc. So you're just going to stop and just arrest people right then and there on the street? I mean, you're calling and asking for chaos. Same time, let's just say that Keith Ellison, the district attorney, I believe, for the whole state of Minnesota, I believe. What's his title here? Let me get this right. Yeah, Keith Ellison is the attorney. What is he? I spelled this wrong here. Attorney General for the state of Minnesota. So if let's just say that he decides to press charges based on the facts and circumstances that we have for the death of Renee Good. Is ICE going to turn him over? You're going to present a warrant and the judge going to sign it? Or are they going to give them the supremacy clause via what we discussed in the first video concerning the Strictly Business podcast? So this is a complicated issue. Again, uncharted territory that we're in.
Warfare in the street. We want to keep our communities safe. We're trying our very best to do that. So nobody, our police officers, ICE agents, civilians, nobody can act illegally.
So I wanted to play that clip for you, Sheriff.
Except for President Trump, who's now gotten immunity thanks to the Supreme Court of the United States, which is started. This is the whole cascade of events. Should not have. That was a terrible, terrible court decision in my estimation.
Because one thing that I took a lot of comfort in what you were saying is if you act unlawfully in Philadelphia, you'll get arrested. He talks about being outnumbered by ICE in Minneapolis. What is the state of play in Philadelphia? Is there the manpower, the woman power to arrest ICE agents acting unlawfully if they come into Philly in mass?
And basically, that's what your district attorney, your prosecutor does. And that's why I stand with the DA in this city, because he is telling everybody that if you come in Philadelphia and commit a crime, he will charge you. That means you will be arrested. And for our office, if a judge issue a warrant for you, then we will go get you. So when he says they're outnumbered, he basically said, yeah, they can arrest them if they commit a crime. And so, you know what? We would just have to beef up the numbers in the city. You cannot just come in here and do what you want to do. The cities need to stand up. We know that we have been working with immigration for decades because they have been doing it right.
Right. And that's what I was saying in a previous video. You just need to go back to pre-Trump era, pre-Trump craziness here that has just opened up the floodgates of just absolute nonsense. She said that the cities need to stand up, but I'm saying Congress needs to stand up and enforce the rules, create new ones if need be. Decide how we're going to make arrests if and when we see officers acting illegally, allow the states and allow the cities and allow the counties to be a part of any type of investigation, i.e. the Renee Good situation. The state of Minnesota, the county, the city all need to be involved in the investigation. You killed one of their citizens, right? Okay, it may be a federal acting under federal color of law, but that should not mean that you're immune from any type of investigation and or prosecution. So we got to sort all this out. And I am not confident that this administration cares and wishes to sort it out. They like what they're doing. They're going to continue down this road until someone stops them.
But when you get folks that are doing what they do today, it's not acceptable. And it can't be. And we're not trying to make it the norm in our country. We're not trying to have mass people come and act like thugs, gangsters, because those people get arrested for what they do. So if you commit a crime, according to our DA, he will charge you. That means you will get arrested and you will go to jail. That's That's the smoke I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the smoke they don't want. So, Mike, my final question for you, I know you have to go, is your position then is, for example, there were ICE agents that were offended that a young man who worked at Target, which many of us are still boycotting, he works there. He said to an ICE agent, F you. They were offended by that. They threw him to the ground in the entryway of the store, and they threw him into a vehicle. They've assaulted other people. You're not saying that your officers would arrest them on the spot necessarily. You're saying that a warrant would be issued and they would be arrested after the fact.
If our DA charges them,
Yeah.
then a warrant will be issued and they'd be arrested. See, that right there is a professional. We are groomed to take insults. We don't get mad because you cussing at us. We don't get mad because you want to say words out of you. As long as you don't put your hands on us, we do not attack you. See, this is with training.
See, with respectfully, this is the rules and the norms that officers were trained to operate under. Completely different set of rules and regulations now. If that officer in Target or whatever the story that Angela Rye is speaking about, in which the Sheriff Bilal is now responding to, if that was harped in their training, I think she's about to say, if that was harped on in their training, then the officer wouldn't act like that. But the bigger problem is that number one is the training. Number two is the supervision. And I'm talking about supervision all the way up the chain of command, all the way up into the president's office, because he is setting the tone with the bombing of boats, the kidnapping in Venezuela, the bombing of Iran. All of these types of things are breaking norms and rules, international laws, our own domestic rules, regulations, laws. And when you got individuals operating along those lines and refusing to hold those people accountable, if these officers, the ICE agents, are not held accountable, that is going to embolden all the other craziness that goes on. If they were not held accountable towards the incident that happened in Target, it's just going to embolden other agents. They're going to have locker room talk. They're going to have a beer after and say, this is what I did, and nobody's going to do anything about it. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So you have to hold them accountable. This is why people want the masks to come off. This is why they got to be identifiable, so that these things can't get lost and shuffled around in paperwork.
Comes in. This is where stamina comes in. This is where you put your big boy pants on and you can take a little insult. That's where training comes in. 47 days is not enough to be able to have people standing out there doing what they do. They hurting our communities. They are. So when you're a trained professional, you know how to take all of that. You don't go beating up on children. To me, that's thuggish. That's thuggish. And you want to be a gangster. You want to be a thug. That's not professionalism. That's not law enforcement. And people around the country that are offended or about what I'm saying, I'm speaking the truth to power. Ask any professor about law enforcement and the standards that they have. We've been working with communities to build our relationship. Right now, they're tearing down the trust of law enforcement by these actions. People are beginning not to trust law enforcement professionals. I know they don't trust those in the masks coming out there because they don't even know who they is. You know, there's fake ones going around too.
Yeah.
And that's when I say the word fake ones, it's because they don't have enough training to be out there interacting with.
Well, there are agents, there are people who are imitating actual ICE agents. When you allow them to run around with unmarked cars, changing license plates and masks, and all they have to have on is police, etc., or ICE or something like that. Anybody can go out there and imitate that and emulate that. This is why people want warrants. This is why they ought to have a strict type of uniform that no one else. I mean, you can emulate it if you want, but no one else can emulate it. This is why asking for credentials matters. What do credentials look like? What do the ICE agents' credentials look like? What does the actual badge look like? Not only the badge, but the actual credentials. We got to be able to check all that. It's particularly if they really do follow through with going door to door. You're going to just open up your door to somebody claiming to be from ICE? It's crazy. Crazy times.
Communities. Because they don't do it on a daily basis. They don't do it on a monthly basis. What they're doing, I just, look, put my hands up and say, this is not right. It's wrong. It's causing problems in our communities. And somebody got to say something, and you got to stand up against this.
Yeah, that is so good, Sheriff. We so appreciate your time. Y'all, this is Sheriff Rochelle Bilal. Please follow her. Make sure that you're clear about what she's saying about how we can manage and maintain through this really, really difficult time. Sheriff, I'm so grateful for the standard you are setting about how to actually deal with Immigration Customs Enforcement, which is ICE, with their 47-day training. But thank you so much for all you're doing, and I look forward to seeing you on here again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
You too. So, y'all, I think that what is important to know here is that knowing your rights hasn't changed, but the people who are enforcing those rights and the folks who have to abide by those are changing. The standard is changing. The sheriff said something so compelling just moments ago about the fact that these people are receiving 47 days of training. That's a little over a month and a half, right? A month and a half of training, and you're expected to understand what you learn in 5 to 6 months or as a career law enforcement professional. We're getting a lot of questions and comments. And so here's the first one from Ray Vega. Can Jonathan Ross, the ICE agent who murdered Renee, be brought forward in handcuffs? Is there any attempt to bring him down? He needs to be in prison for good. And I don't know the answer to that. I think what would be really compelling, y'all, is as you have these interactions with law enforcement, with ICE enforcement, because to the point that the sheriff so eloquently brought up and addressed, we don't know if these folks are actually law enforcement or not. We know that they've received a crash course, and as a result, they're crashing into stuff. They're crashing into our constitutional rights. They're violating people. They haven't done proper background checks. There are all kinds of things that ICE is doing improperly in this moment that are putting American citizens at risk and the people who are living here. And so I don't know if Jonathan Ross can be brought forth in handcuffs, but here's what I do know. You all should be calling your city attorneys, your DAs, your state attorneys general, and let them know when ICE has violated your constitutional rights. When they have run afoul of the law, you should let them know. Perhaps that means that the DA in your city, in your county, will go after that ICE agent and prosecute them, right? And a warrant could be issued for their arrest, and then they're brought forth in hand. I'm not really here for the pageantry about whether or not someone is brought out shackled or handcuffed or any of that. What I'm here for is justice. What I'm here for is ensuring that people can safely walk about their communities. They can go to the store. They can take their kids to school. These kids can go to school without issue. And right now, we can't say that that's the case.
I'm going to leave it off right there. Listen, we're in uncharted territory. To some extent, I do agree with Angela Rye. Listen, we want justice. We want to be able to move about as free citizens in this country. This is, in particular, this is what Black folks have always been angling for, is to be treated like everyone else. And now everyone else has been treated like us. It's a problem. Of course, I don't think it's funny, but it's just, the irony here is just palpable. So, my thoughts and my opinions concerning, what you should do is you got to conduct yourself with the most of care. You got to be very circumspect. You got to be very smart in how you're dealing with this. If ICE is in your community, in your place, and they're coming, if you're going to record them, you got to stay, a good amount of ways back. I would not talk to them. I would not antagonize them, because these people don't have training. They don't have the psychological screenings. They don't have it. If they're slamming people because they get called an effing a-hole or in Target, listen. And listen, here's another thing too, right? People don't like to hear this too, right? They may be saying it to you, but if they're saying it in a crowded place, that could be considered breach of peace. Does ICE have the authority to arrest for breach of peace? I don't know. It's not a federal crime, but that's something you got to consider, right? If you're making a big scene in a Target, in a hospital, in a school, or someplace where it's drawing attention, it could be considered a breach of peace, depending on how the statutes in your state or your city ordinances are written. So if you're going to engage with ICE, I would just say, listen, the only things I would say to them is, listen, brother or sister, if you're being recorded or whatever, if it's a recording you're going to do, listen, I'm getting it all on tape, man, just cooperate, whatever's whatever, right? Because you don't want anyone to get hurt. So just make sure you have videotape, send that information to where it needs to go. I would not let them confiscate anything. If they try to, just say, it's my rights not to. Know the rights. I did a video about this. Know the rights about whether who can confiscate items within your city, your state. You got to know all that. You got to do your homework about what it takes to when you're recording, because they might want to consider it evidence, particularly if it's something really, really damning. So I don't want to give bad information. I don't want to give information to the ICE agents who didn't want to, weaponize that against the citizens. But you got to be very cautious and know the state laws, rules, regulations. Cooperate when possible. Don't fight with them. Don't swear at them, and don't get in their way. Don't put hands on them. You can hold your ground, stand your ground. But if something starts coming towards you and they want to buck up and ask for this and ask for that and ask for ID, and you got to know the laws as it relates to what's going on in your state. Some states are identify yourself laws, right? So, they have reason to stop you and be suspicious of you. Then they might be able to take you into custody or at least ask for your ID. So this is a complicated issue. It's not getting any easier. I feel bad for all that's going on here, but this is where we're at. This is where we're at. Again, is this an ICE problem that we need to disband ICE? I wouldn't say that. I think it's a supervision problem. I think it's an administration problem, and we need to take it back to pre-Trump era of accountability, mask off, holding individual officers accountable, taking them back to the mandatory amount of training that was due before, and so that's where we're at. So, and I do agree with other YouTubers out there who have said they are looking for sparks. They're trying to engage this stuff that's going on here is It's intentional. It's intentional. They want it. They want you protesting. They want you out there causing scenes. It's fuel for their fire. Don't give it to them. Let's do things the right way. All right, y'all. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Hit me in the comment section. Much love and peace.